Hey, practice owners, welcome back to another edition of Coming Back Stronger. Our guest today, one of my favorite people in the dental industry, Samir Bhasin, CareCredit, Vice President of Alliances. Samir, we don't get a lot of vice presidents on here. It's usually dentists and, those kind of people, KOLs, but you're like the guy at CareCredit. So number one, thanks for coming on today.
My pleasure. And can I get that part of the recording where I'm the guy so I can tell people that CareCredit?
Yes. Well, and so the neat thing is, we've talked a lot over the years about the people in this business that help practices, not in a clinical way, but they help practices start, grow, stay alive. And I think, everybody knows CareCredit. I mean, you've just been around, you have a tremendous market share. We've talked before about where you fit and the really kind of successful impact practices have a much higher level of third-party financing. We'll talk about that here in a little bit, maybe some numbers that docs who are listening can go back and look in their practice and say, hey, are we doing that? Do our numbers look like that? And but really starting out, I wanted to you've made some changes in terms that I think are important to share with CareCredit terms. And then I'd like to move into kind of what high functioning practices do. We're going to talk about breakdowns of financing and how you kind of measure yourself and things that a practice owner could do right now with cash flow, which right now cash flow is king, and ways that you guys can help with that to get over this sort of very fresh post-corona period. I think California is not back yet and a couple other states, but most people are starting to come back and then get through the end of the year financially stable. So, and how CareCredit can happen with that or help with that. So, does that work for you?
That works for me. Hey, awesome. Anything we can do, and we've been pretty proud to be part of the profession that you and I love. So, so it's an honor. So thank you for having me. So let's.
So there's some term changes, terms different that I think I saw that your CEO announced that will help dentists, make a little more profit on treatment that they're already doing.
Yeah. So, we've all been in this storm. We may not all be in the same boat, but we are definitely part of the same storm. And so the whole thing was, what can we do? I mean, we've always been there. We would like to be as part of, be a part of their practice. And thankfully for us, it's been that we've been pretty blessed to have had the opportunity to serve as long as we have, and we plan to do it for much longer. But this has put everyone in a different way of thinking. We had to pivot much more than we did before. We had to think differently. We're doing meetings differently. I mean, just everything about everything we've known what was normal is not so much so anymore. So so we were like, okay, now that the practices are starting to come open, they're starting to open up, the doctors are looking at wanting to get those patients back. It's almost sometimes would feel like that you're starting from scratch. I mean, it's like nothing, and then you got to start filling those schedules. So what could we possibly as a company we could do to help the doctor so they can help more patients? And part of what was, we've always had our promotional financing of the 6 months and 12 months and 18 months of deferred financing. 12 months has historically been the most popular in dental world, like offering 12-month deferred promotional financing to the patients. Part of it is also because of the fees is for doctors, they feel more comfortable as the months go up, like the 18-month is a higher fee. So we said, how about this? Patients want to pay for a longer period of time. It's more about how can I fit that into my budget coming from a patient's perspective.
Right.
But the doctors also have to look at, what's going to cost me, and from a cost perspective, what I have to make decisions, even though that's what I'm thinking is the best decision for me right now. So what we did was for the month of May, June, and July, 2020, our doctors can offer 18 months deferred promotional financing to their patients, but they pay the fee as if it's for 12 months, which is 9.9% transaction for regular. So now what we are thinking is, again, it's about the cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
It's getting that turnaround. The other part is, unlike pre-COVID or pre-March 2020, where a practice could see 20, 30, 40 patients, that's not going to be the case, at least for a short period of time.
Right.
It's going to be very scattered. So if you've got the patients coming in, do you really want to just turn over the room as quickly, or let's discuss that treatment that has already been diagnosed,
Mm-hmm.
the patient presented to them, and now giving them a longer term to pay it off may become interesting and may become attractive to the patient to say, you know what, I'm here. I don't want to have to come back in 2 months or 3 months. If I can avoid it, if we can do it, we've got the time, then let's do it. And now it's also, it's much more affordable. I can fit that into my life. I can fit that into my budget. So that was part of what we decided to do for the month of May, June, and July, to kind of get that ramp up, to get
Mm-hmm.
the patients attracted to wanting to do dentistry that's been recommended, versus, again, let's just do the bare minimum. And for the doctors to say, you know what, you're here, let's just go ahead and do it. And that helps with their chair time.
Right, right. And you and I have talked many times in the past about sort of my perspective on CareCredit, and I think it's awesome that the fees change. But as a business guy, I've always said, the fee is sort of secondary. To me, the impact or the importance is it's treatment you wouldn't do otherwise. Even in my practice ownership days, I would have somebody say, well, that's, I don't know, 9% versus 11%, and I would say, right. So you save 2% of nothing because you're not offering it because you're worried about 2 cents on the dollar.
Yeah.
And especially right now, we were talking earlier, right now, the ability to bring in patients, and you said something here, I made a big check mark when you said it, is diagnosed but unscheduled treatment.
Yeah.
And if you would kind of share what you see. What I'm seeing are the practices that are back to about 75% of pre-COVID treatment.
Yeah.
So for March, April, and most of May, they haven't been seeing hygiene patients, which is an opportunity to treatment plan, $3 of restorative off of every dollar of hygiene. There's been $0 of hygiene, so there's $0 of restorative. So you have this gap in your cash flow, and whether a dentist / practice owner understands that as the dentist, it's neat to get back and see patients, but as the practice owner, you've got a giant hole in cash flow, and even if you got a PPP loan, it's going to come due, then you're off that scholarship, and then you've got to have revenue coming in to pay next payroll, heat, light, rent, and all that. So what I like is the idea that and the docs I see, they're kind of cherry picking patients. They have a blank schedule and they're going to put the hygiene patient in, but they're sort of picking patients with a lot of unscheduled treatment. So they saw them 6, 7, 8, 9 months ago, and they prioritize them because they, need crown and bridge, they want implants, they want whatever they want, high dollar items, which are awesome, but you still have to get them to accept it. And that's sort of where I think CareCredit fits right now, is you can do more of that high dollar treatment. Are you seeing that a thing?
So it's always been, one of the ways for us to always talk about your practice. It's very hard. Like, we could have done and we could do a better job of actually saying, if I walk into Dr. Parker's office, like, you may think that you are utilizing CareCredit.
Right.
But what the metrics are very different. So that's where a lot of the time my team will just discuss, okay, let's take a look at your diagnosis and unscheduled. Numbers don't lie. You and I can have a very different feeling on how things are working and how I'm practicing and what kind of cases I'm doing, but the numbers will tell a very different story, or could tell a very different story. So that's where we start to see, like, okay, especially right now, as you're starting to bring in the patients, are you starting to, for the lack of a better word, I'm going to say, let's bring in that right patient. We all want great patients, yes we do, but we also want, right now, for short term, let's bring in that right patient. The right patient is the ones that have been diagnosed, may or may not have some benefits, have good history of keeping appointments. They're compliant. They don't owe you, I'm picking a number, is it more than $100 from before? They may have patient financing already set. So it's them and their family members. Now, these are the people that should fall in. And I'm sure everybody has a different way of looking at it. But to me, from a mathematically, if you were to take a look at it, is okay, where is my highest return on keeping that and that chair efficiency? So it's always been, it's an easier place to go because I can come in and I can tell you how I can help your practice be profitable, help more patients, et cetera, and you may feel everything is great. So now it becomes, let's take a look at your diagnose and schedule. Like, these are the patients you diagnosed. Do you have some semblance of a relationship, right? I mean, they have been to your office. You've had a chance to interact. Why is it still sitting in the books? What is that reason? Money may be one of them. I don't know. It could be others. And if that is the case, then let's figure out how are we verbally educating them? What are we presenting? How are we presenting? When are we presenting? Is it an afterthought? Let's talk about patient financing, which is what I see a difference in what we would call like a high functioning practice is that is CareCredit or patient financing used as a product or is part of the process? And what that really means is I'm going to talk to patient Parker and I say, your portion is like $5,000. How would you like to pay? And I'm waiting. And you will give me the same look that most patients will probably say, all right, is there something else? Oh, we take check, credit card, or cash. And I'm still, so like, okay, let me think about it. And so it's the let me think about it patients or I need to speak. And I'm not saying it's always false. When I'm going to spend that kind of money, I do need to speak to my spouse. So that may be a lot of it. But what we tend to, or at least in my experience, I used to be a rep and then had the opportunity to run the state of Texas as a manager. What we consistently saw it was, oh wait, we also have this. It was almost like an afterthought. So where we see it differently is when it's part of a process. There's a process in place. There's a system in place. It becomes a much more fluid conversation. And that's where, I'm not saying those offices don't have diagnosed and unscheduled, but the numbers are very different than where it's a I don't know. Like I said, they're cherry picking, and I don't even think they intentionally do that. It's just not part of my regular behavior day in, day out. So it's, how can we help it? And that's what the resources that we develop, the tools that we develop, it is just for that. It is to make that conversation easier. It's not always about patient financing. If the focus is, how can I minimize my cancellations and no-shows? We have resources for that. And we get a chance to work with industry experts. And there's wealth of information. So I don't know if that's what you were looking for, but
yeah, one of the things that's always impressed me about CareCredit, I'm a big CareCredit fan for a lot of reasons. One is, again, it is a tremendous resource to get high dollar treatment that the patient needs done, as opposed to not getting the treatment done, as opposed to saying, 6 months, 8 months, 9 months ago, hey, you need these 3 crowns. You need this bridge, you need these implants, you need whatever it is, and it's this much money, and you should really do it today. And they think about it, and we really, Samir, at the end of the day, we remind them 6 months from now when they come back in for hygiene. Except right now, they haven't been back for hygiene. If they were doing April and we were going to chat about that, about that case, we didn't. So what I like the fact that, and I'll be honest with you, that I talked to a lot of dentists. And what I want to know is what's working. I always just say what's working and what's not working. I'm not going to draw any judgment, but I know if you're doing this and you're stable and profitable and, you're getting back up faster, that's what's working. That's what I want to check out. If somebody who is struggling and, you're worrying whether they're going to make it, I don't want to be doing that. And so what I see is somebody who is reaching out So for example, my wife, Paula, great
Yeah.
teeth.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be calling Paula today.
Yeah.
Um, I love her to death. She's my wife, but I promise you, she doesn't need any treatment.
Yeah.
She's gonna, and she loves her hygiene. And
Yeah.
but she is not a person I would fill up an hour of my schedule with right now.
Yeah.
I would push her off
Yeah.
and say the person I want in this chair right now is somebody who has an open $9,000 treatment plan. And again, it's not work. I'm not pushing off work they don't need.
Right.
I'm basically trying to accelerate work we talked about, but we need to do it now. And here are 3 options. And how would you like to do that?
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I'm even seeing docs who are saying, listen, I know this was $7,700, when we talked about it, but right now we're getting back up to speed. I got holes in my schedule. And if you're willing to do it, and you don't have insurance and you can pay for it, I mean, I can do it tomorrow afternoon and it'll be $5,000.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of dentists will hear that and say, oh, I'm selling dentistry. And I think at this point in time, right now, as you get back and you need cash flow, that's probably okay. Again, don't sell them something they don't need.
Absolutely.
They need it, find a way to get it done. And CareCredit's a great place to help get it done. So,
yeah, and I'm sure the ones who are doing it that way, they are doing it to make it more attractive for that patient too.
yeah,
Right? It's for them. It's not like all of a sudden the cost of supplies has gone down.
right.
They're making it their heart is in the right place by making it attractive. Instead of spending 7,000, you can spend 5,000. So I'm helping you, the patient.
It's win-win.
Right?
They save money and you keep your practice open.
Practice. Yeah.
At the end of the day, again, this is another, I think you and I are in perfect alignment on this. I'm always surprised at the offices that the docs will take, sign up for this PPO and they're writing off 30%, but they're complaining about paying, what'd you say, 9.9%.
Yeah.
So I'm taking a PPO patient and I'm writing off 30, but I'm complaining about 9.9. So now's not a time to get, I guess that would be my point. Now's not a time to get into that. Now is the time to do as much treatment as you can, get your cash flow going. And in that vein, one of the things that you do, I think you do 24 to 48 hour turnaround on payment.
Yeah.
So if I do an insurance, if I get a big case, say, and it's all insurance, I'm probably not seeing that money. Best case, 30 days. So, the insurance finally pays it. And then 50% of those cases, they're going to, you forgot the narrative, didn't put in a magic word, or you didn't pick the right code. So now you got to call and haggle with them and get that money in 60 days.
Yes.
There's a value in doing a $5,000 treatment plan and getting paid in by, Thursday, getting paid by Monday. Certainly if you got payroll next Friday, it certainly helps. So I think a lot of docs don't get that. And I wanted to make sure we reinforce that. If you would just kind of share how that payment part works, but I mean, doing it and getting paid now, there's a tremendous value in that right now. I mean,
and that's where I think a lot of and you said it earlier, it's the difference is, are you looking at it as it's costing me money? What I always have told offices, like, if we are not helping you grow your practice,
right,
increase the productivity, increase the profitability, then we are costing. But thankfully, in all the years that I have been, that's never been the case. And this is where I always say perception and reality. There's always been a big gap. There's a gap in it, So a doctor is thinking, oh, I'm taking this, and then my overhead is this, and now I'm getting another 10%. So I just went from taking 20% home to taking only 10% home. Well, that's not how the math works out.
Right.
And so this is where the reps, I always highly recommend, it's sometimes we don't know what we don't know. And one of the things that I want to tell our audience is, if you even have a question, how do you, you're costing me money, or I think CareCredit costs me money. How are you going to increase it? We actually have tools to actually put in and show you what the black and white. Again, perception is very different until I can show you the numbers. Numbers will tell a very different story, and numbers don't lie. So we can show exactly how, by offering for which services that you're wanting to focus on. Is it the crown? Is the implants? Is the clear aligners? Whatever that is, how many you want to do, what is your goal, what the benefits are, what the fees are, where you're at, and by offering patient financing upfront, how does that change the profitability? How does it change your bottom line? So, it becomes like at some point in time, your overhead cost it's pretty fixed. There may be some changes, like if you do a bigger treatment, some supply costs, but for the most part, the light's not going to cost any more than your rent's not going to change from day to day.
Mhm.
So now what I can change is in that 1 hour, am I producing $500 or I'm producing $3,000?
Especially now, you need
Especially now.
and again, this isn't, you're not calling patients to, say, hey, buy something you don't need. You're going back into your treatment and helping them get it done. But, this deal's not good in October, because in October we've smoothed back out.
Yeah.
But in May and June, we've got to get back up to speed quickly. So we talked before, and if you could help remind me, we talked about practices, and what I try to draw as conclusions about what is a successful practice doing and what is a struggling practice doing. And one of those is they're utilizing third-party financing. It's just part of the conversation, and they know that there are all kinds of patients. There are patients who can walk in and write a check, and there are patients who can put it on a credit card, and there are patients who say, I'm only doing what my insurance says. And then, there are patients, I mean, it's all sort of divided up. But so as a rule of thumb, Samir, what would we be, say a highly functioning practice, and we won't hold you anything, but if you walked in a highly functioning practice, what would be sort of those ratios of, say, cash, insurance, third-party finance, and I guess that's probably it. Is there kind of a rule of thumb you guys go by?
We go by, it's a good rule of thumb, again, is that 15 to 20% of your overall collections should be coming from a third-party financing.
Okay.
And it kind of keeps going back to that 50% of most payments come from insurance, 35 come from check, credit card, or cash. We're not there to compete with them. It's anything that we should be an add-on to it. But it's the 15 to 20 is where I don't know kind of a person. So we see majority of the times that's where it's a good place to be. And I have always said, I was like, if you take a look at least in my personal opinion, I wish I could say that we did a study and there's like a massive study around it. On an average, one doctor, one hygiene, I have seen like between $750,000 to $1 million in diagnosed and unscheduled. Now, I'm not going to say, and I'm not going to say, if they had offered CareCredit or patient financing, it would be all $1 million in their pocket. No. Let's just be super conservative. What if I could get 20 or 30% off that?
Right.
Will that $200,000 or $300,000 make a difference? And which is what we kind of keep going back to. Again, process, cash flow, and that's the biggest difference. It's what the doctors are comfortable, their teams are comfortable, they understand the reason, they understand why it's important, and how can we help with the sense of urgency. Like, I can just tell you what is needed, but how can we improve on sense of urgency of why this treatment is needed and why we need to get to there faster, and how can I help you get there, and how can I help you get your mouth healthier. And like I said, I mean, I keep talking about tools. Like, one of the tools that we have, it's if you're uncomfortable discussing, biggest reason, one of the things that we hear is the discomfort in telling somebody that you were not approved.
Yeah.
We have tools to help address that. Like, could we do a quick screen or pre-approval to help gauge what is the possibility or probability of this patient getting approved from CareCredit?
Okay.
And so those are some of the tools that my reps can easily discuss, talk, show, and present to. So now you can, moving forward, you can have a better idea of what are some of the policy and processes that we should be incorporating moving forward. If there is time right now, we can do that. And even after that, I mean, that's what the reps are doing. They will do virtual meetings just like you and I are doing right now.
Right.
And kind of walk them through and kind of help them with that, because it, again, kind of going back to it's understanding that we are aware what you are trying to do as a practice. Mm-hmm. So the last thing I want or my team wants to do is to be a hindrance in getting the doors open. I want to support that effort.
Yeah. And it helps you. So if I'm a doc right now and I guess that's a report. I can go into my Dentrix and I can, spit out a report and say,
Yeah.
wow, what do you know? I thought I was using CareCredit.
Mm-hmm.
I see the brochures on the, on the front desk, and,
Yeah.
I hear us talking about them, but I'm, 5% of my production is third party financing.
Yeah.
It doesn't take many big cases that, that again, get done and paid in the next 48 hours. It doesn't take many big cases to start bringing that number up. So it's not a matter of pushing others down. It's a matter of bringing that one up. So
Yeah.
what would, and I know we've talked in the past, you have reps all over the country.
Yeah.
So a couple things they can do. One is you can say, hey, I watched this, I saw Samir and Steve on this thing and they said I should be doing 20%. I'm doing 5.
Yeah.
How do I change that? And so your reps are really good at the hands-on. They're good at saying, here's how you present it. Here's how it works. Here's how it fits in. Again, just one option. And
exactly.
There's nowhere you can go, Samir, that somebody doesn't say, if you're going to buy a car, they say, what do you want your payment to be? And then figure it out. Yeah. And we're not selling cars here. We're selling treatment. But the mindset of the patient is, okay, $157 a month.
Yeah.
I'll do that bridge, or I'll do those implants.
Yeah.
So,
so that's definitely one of the things that they are ready to, even though they're not seeing in person. That's why they are going to be doing a lot of these virtual calls to help the practice understand. Because here's the thing, most of the offices may not even know where they are at. They just know that I think I did $50,000 or $30,000 last year, but that's about it. The other number, and if I had to come up with a number and say, what would be an easier statistic, because 20% may sound self-serving, like, okay, I've been wanting to do a lot of big cases. Let's even put it in patients' term. What if we had 10% of the patients applying? 20 patients a day should have 1 or 2 applications. I think that's an easier number. And more often than not, when I have spoken to dentists, that they can say, oh, I can think of like 3 patients from yesterday that could have taken advantage of it.
Right.
So looking at those 2 numbers is easy, and my team can help put, at least set the barometer, put that baseline. Now you can work off of it. It's like, okay, so this is where we are at. This is what, and I want what I want the doctors to understand is, it's not a one and done thing. I wish that was so easy. We say, okay, let's do this, and hallelujah, everything is great. It's a step approach. And
yeah. There also needs to be, I think, right now, again, as we come back and we really got to get cash flow. If you've been in practice 20 years, your cash flows look like this, and a few little bumps. And what I was trying to think of who told me this. What do they say? September and Rocktober, and September sucked and October made up for it. And you've done that for 25 years. Now it's a whole new. You've got to get a handle on it. So
going back to originally, you said, what is one of the things when we see the difference in high functioning or not? It is, instead of seeing the ebbs and flows, we see a little bit more steady. It's not, we rarely hear like, oh, we had such a horrible month, or we had such a fantastic, it's going to catch up. It's already all set in motion. It's in the pipeline. They know, and it's consistently, just like any business. When you do your projections, nobody likes to do this all year long.
Right.
It's not. So yeah.
So somebody who, I'm watching our time here, I want to make sure we get in resources. You have tons of resources.
Yes.
Where would they find those? Well, if somebody's watching this and says, yeah, gosh, it's important. Where would they find some resources to kind of help get them on track?
A few different ways. So of course they can always call our 800 number and have our inside sales rep connect them to their personal rep.
Okay.
They can call 800-859-9975. If they would rather just go online, they can just go to carecredit.com/contact and enter their information, and then somebody from our team will contact them. And because I believe so heavily in we're all in this together I know it's a cliche almost, but
we are.
My part, they can definitely send me an email, and it's sbhasin@carecredit.com. It's SBHASIN@carecredit.com, because anything we can do, a little or big, to help them get expedited on this path to getting back to whatever the new normal is going to look like. I was thinking the other day, we used to have BC, then there's AD, and I think now there's going to be PC, which is pre-COVID,
Yeah.
and that we're going to start timelining it that way. But to get back to that, so yeah, any one of those ways they can contact us.
Awesome. Well, Samir, like I say, I appreciate you coming on. Everybody knows CareCredit, but I think a lot of docs underutilize CareCredit. It is a tremendous tool, again, to fuel your practice, and money fuels your practice at the end of the day. It pays all the bills, pays you, pays taxes, heat, light, rent, and people. And you have to be very conscious of it. And even more so right now. The next 30 days is really critical. So I appreciate you coming on and sharing the tools that CareCredit has. And any practice owner that's not hitting those numbers, I would really encourage you to reach out. I mean, you know, it doesn't cost you anything to have the CareCredit rep come by and just say, sure, here are some tools we have. And as I said, I love your tools. I love the resources.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, I'll be remiss in just not acknowledging the facts, because this new reality is also the whole contactless approach.
Yes.
So there are tools on how do you not have to do the application and provide the paperwork back and forth. How can we make that contactless using those tools, or getting what we call payment provider, using that tool to where you get paid and not have to do the, here's my credit card, I want to touch your keypad, etc. Right. So yeah, that's exactly what we're here to do, and I appreciate your time. So look forward to it.
Well, and like I said, we run into each other. So I'm looking forward to, you know, we bump into each other out in the field and in dentistry and the shows and the meetings. And you're locked down till, what did you say, September 7th?
September 7th, official for us is work at home, September 7th.
That is, it's a hard thing to do. And the practice owner's getting back. This is just a difficult time. So,
yeah.
So I appreciate you coming on with quarantining from home.
Yeah, thank you.
Spending some time. And practice owners, again, CareCredit, a lot of tools. I'm a big fan only because I think it helps you do treatment that you wouldn't do otherwise. So, you know, it's when you, especially on bigger cases, it's just something I think you should integrate in. So with that, Samir, I appreciate it. And so hopefully I see you out in the world somewhere soon.
Yes, hopefully sooner than later. Appreciate it. Thank you, Steve.
Got it. Practice owners, hang in there. And Samir, see you next time.
See ya.